Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny. I'm here with Brian Colin. How are you again, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
And today we're going to talk about Vast Grimm. Correct me if I'm wrong. Vast Grimm, is that your first work? Because I know we talked about your recent work in our previous video.
Oh
Is
gosh,
Vast Grimm?
no, no, like in the RPG space in particular.
Yes.
Okay, no. So I think the very first thing that I published, I co-published with Norse Foundry, which was cartography, which were dungeon crawls in a deck where we did seven different dungeon crawl decks. They were all thematically different. I've actually used those decks as reference in another Vast Grim adventure and also in my Morkborg adventure, Crawling Death. And then after that, I did a campaign setting and bestiary and a whole bunch of stuff for World of Revelo, which was my fantasy setting that I ended up doing in 5e, based on monster taxidermy sculptures of more whimsical things that I sculpted than the weird monstrosities that I've sculpted for Vast Grim.
Today, everyone, we're talking about Vast Grimm because there's a new Kickstarter out for it where there's
Yes,
like tons of things. There's a starter set, booklets.
along with the starter set, there's a battle binder, which is an A5 size binder. It's similar to this, but with different art that can hold zines or it can hold pages if you want in it. Even has that classic binder sound. I've got one of the zines in this one here, so you can take what you want to game night and have different sheets in there for keeping track of characters or adventures. You'll be able to get your zines with or without holes because I know some people don't want the holes punched in them, but for me and travelability, that's key. There's a Kickstarter exclusive T-shirt. There is a novella by John Baltisberger, which is the first actual fiction set in the Vast Grimm universe. There's also a zine with other fiction that he's written that will have like NPCs and a little mini adventure in it that ties in with some of the other zines. And one of the biggest parts about moving with this, I moved to a zine format mainly because about a month and a half ago, I got my own digital printer that can print zines. It prints, folds, cuts, staples, does it all, so that I can have more control over what I'm putting out, especially with all the recent tariff issues and things like that, and uncertainty with manufacturing globally. I decided that as a control freak, I needed more control.
But for anyone out there, if you're interested about the Kickstarter, you can get Vast Script right now digitally to Drive to RPG and to your website as well. And I'll put links
Yes,
for that in the description below. So for anyone hearing about this for the first time, Vast Grim, how would you describe it?
the universe is coming to a terrible end. Almost everyone has been infected by one of six different strains of parasitic worms. It's bizarre, weird, over the top. I run it like it's a my B movie splatterpunk science fantasy game. It's been some people have described it as taking Guardians of the Galaxy and throwing them into an alien movie. So it's uh, very gross. It's got lots of vibrant colors and imagery that really sets the tone as you're flipping through the pages. It gets you into the setting quickly, just visually alone. And there's a lot of humor thrown in as well because basically I'm making games for my 13-year-old self.
So what can you be in this setting?
So in the core rules, there's 8 different classes. Starting out, 2 of them are like everybody's pretty terrible because most people they're just trying to survive. Maybe maybe they just need to be faster than the next guy. Or there's also this glimmer of hope where there's this gate of infinite stars being built. Maybe they're trying to get the pieces of that to try and help build it to guarantee them a spot out of the universe before it collapses. But in the classes, 2 of the darker classes, one being the devout, the people that worship the worms and want people to become infected and want humanity to fall. There's also harvesters who go around to people that have been infected or like corpses on the ground and they harvest the worms out of them, selling them on the black market because as you get infected with worms, they can live with you. Like every day, you make a test to see if you fail or pass with your toughness. If you fail, you have a parasitic pain. The worm is working against you, and you roll on a table depending on the type of worm. And with that, there's always the chance that the worm takes over and you become one of the Grimm, an alien hive mind zombie-like species. But should you succeed, you could have a parasitic pleasure. The worm is happy to be in its host body and it's working with you, giving you benefits. Um, the other six classes include things like a mansheen, which is basically like a cyborg. There's an emobot, which is a droid essentially that wants more than anything to be human. There is the lost technomaniac, which is somebody that can harness, is more akin to harnessing the magic, the neuromancy magic of the universe, which is kind of contained in little jump drives or chips. It's loosely described, but it's basically like spells. So they can cast different things based on the tributes that they have and have access to. There's the twisted biochemist who each day makes new concoctions, puts them into their little gun, and can either inject themselves, inject others, or inject threats, depending on what concoction they've come up with. Um, there's a treacherous merc, which is your standard mercenary, gun for hire. Really, probably only cares about creds and saving their own butt. Um, there's the sole survivor, usually like the person that's lurking back in the shadows, usually the last person to ever get attacked because they don't ever appear to be any sort of threat. And I am forgetting one. Who am I forgetting? It will come to me. But so there's 8 different classes in the core book, and then in all of since its inception, since my friend Ross Brandt and I created it, I've released 6 other hardcover books, a handful of other zines. So there's other classes that have come about in some of the supplements, and there will be some additional classes in some of the and things like that in the zines that are part of this Kickstarter as well.
Where did the idea for this come from exactly? Like
Well, so my friend Ross ran Morkborg for my Atlanta crew. So I'm like an hour west of Atlanta, and this was right towards the end of, or it was during the pandemic, and I hadn't really been sculpting much because before I had sculpted these big fantasy creatures, and most of that was because I was doing conventions and having those at my booth, and then putting them into my setting and things like that. And after playing and after opening up the book and seeing how different the art was and how it broke so many graphic design rules as a graphic designer, I it made something click in my brain, and I was like, "Hey Ross, do you want to make a sci-fi hack of this game?" Because the open license that Johan and Pele had created was so big, and so you could do so much with it, and nobody at that point had ever done a book where all the rules were self-contained. People had made adventures for Morkborg, but nobody had actually been like, "Hey, let's put all the rules in, and all you need is this book. You don't need Morkborg, but you should buy it because it's a fantastic book." So I reached out to them and I was like, "Hey, your license, it says we can use all the rules. Can I really use all the rules?" And from that, that Vast Grimm was born. And I made inside the core book, there's a beast called a Warhound, which if I tilt up, if you look, let's see if I can do this right. If you look up that monster up there,
interesting.
that was the Warhound. That was the first thing that I sculpted for Vast Grimm. And instead of having a more colorful palette, I limited my colors to black and white and one blue. And as I was sculpting this, ideas were flowing, and then we just started developing the setting.
Speaking of monsters, the cover, what
Yes.
is that exactly?
That is one of the 6 types of worms. That is a Turgis worm, which is the one that attaches to the spine. Worms start out very tiny little small larvae, but they can grow gigantic. They can burst out of your body and find a larger host. Some of them are flying around the universe, eating starships and planets. So that's a larger Turgis worm.
Oh, okay. The reason why I ask you about your inspirations behind this game is because I can't pin. So sometimes with not just with Morkborg games, but like other ones, sometimes you could tell um, where they're inspired from. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I can see this is inspired from Star Wars, or this is inspired by some other property. But Vast Grimm, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know. Like it's so
It's
many.
everything.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like an
it's a hodgepodge of.
amalgamation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a amalgamation of a lot of different ideas.
Yes. I mean, you know, growing up in the 80s, watching cartoons, playing with Transformers and He-Man and all those things, and watching Star Wars and pulling in inspiration in high school, listening to like 90s punk rock music and older punk, and all those things kind of influenced and are there's there's little Easter eggs throughout all of the stuff, just because, like I said earlier, I just want to make stuff for my 13-year-old self. I want to do things that, like, if I was younger and reading it, I'd be like, oh, I know what that is.
Hmm. And you were you ever tempted like I'm sure if you were to make like a you mentioned Transformers, so I'll just
Right.
it stick in my head, so I'll use that as an example. Um, you could have made like a Mork Borgish thing of Transformers, and you could have like, oh, this will attract all the Transformers fans into this.
Well,
Um,
so
it,
I could
it,
have, but like at the time, I'd just been playing and writing so much fantasy, and my brain just needed something different. Uh, and this is just where it went. And I like whenever there's new, like, younger folks that are starting to write and create new RPG stuff, I always tell them, write what you want to play, and this is what I wanted to play, and it's still what I want to play 4+ years later.
hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter. Now you've expanded this to a bunch
Even
of other
more,
things. Yeah.
yes.
So, if I may ask, what does all these? I mean, wow, you have so much new materials in your Kickstarter. There. Let's start with the starter set. Then, what does the starter set contain exactly?
Sure. And part of the idea of the starter set is like Grimm has been like a slow growing cult move, like a cult gathering within the RPG space. And I know there's a lot of people that may seem intimidated by all the books that I have out there. And also, might want to try something new. So I wanted to create something that would be easy. This is all you really need. If you just want to try it out, it's not a heavy price point. So it's got an oversized A5 box, which is big enough to hold zines. It's all big enough to hold physical, like the hardcover books as well. Um, but it comes with the crew member manual, which is essentially the character creation rules, the classes, and a one-page rules overview to have everything you really need to just create a character and the core mechanics of the game. Because the core mechanics of the Morkborg stuff is very simple. It also has things which are new that are keywords, which are words that are going to be used both in Vast Grimm, in Squirmish, and in Plunderlust, which all do similar things to make all of the pillars of games that I'm making overlap and make it easier to jump from one to another. It also has a new quick start adventure called Flesh of My Flesh, which has uh, hacks in it written as to how I would run it for anybody that's a new GM, and it has a few additional rules that are in there so that this is really all you would need to get going on a game. It has character generation sheets, color character generation sheets, which kind of walk you through step by step how to create a character. And then it has actual character sheets that you can transfer them to from that, with more room to breathe and not all the crunch that kind of shows you how to build a character. Now, at conventions, we do those character build sheets and build a character with a group of people in like 30 minutes. So it'll have like references on there, like about your class, to what page it's on in the crew member manual, what page it's on in the Vast Grimm core book, and what page it's on in the skeleton crew book, because I also have the stripped down no art book skeleton crew, so for anybody with visual impairment as well.
Hmm. And the crew member manual. Oh, actually, sorry, the network operation manual.
Yes.
Is a GM focused book. What do you mean by that exactly?
So that is like, it has lore, it has more mechanics in it. It has the mechanics about getting infected. It has things about harvesting worms. It has things that you don't need just as the player, but as the GM or the network operator, that will help make it a better experience and a more involved experience for the people at the table.
Oh, okay. And then the rules upgrades you mentioned.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing a little bit of what you mean by that?
Sure. So after playing for so many years, like I had already gone in and added the tech stat to the Skeleton Crew book when I printed that a little bit later, and you can download that upgrade PDF for free for anybody, because I don't want to ever make anybody feel like they have to spend more money just to keep playing the game because I'm changing the rules a little bit. None of this. So everything will be backwards compatible as well. So there's new leveling up slash XP. And part of that is because most people, when they see a Borg related book, they often think of it as just a one shot. And I've been writing an ongoing campaign series, the Gate of Infinite Stars series, that the third book is in this campaign. And I want people to, if they're interested, be able to play this more than just one session. I want this to be something that they can take on for quite some time and even go into another universe should they collect all the pieces of the Gate of Infinite Stars and keep playing. Um,
Mm.
I've created crew factions, which if you decided to take your existing legion, the people that are the characters that are playing together, and create a faction or join a faction, there's added benefits and different things and how that works and interacts with other factions throughout the universe. Um, when doing the skirmish game, Squirmish, one of the biggest things that came up was rebreathers, and I've upped the intensity of infection and how often or how easily it is to get infected by worms. So rebreathers are a big part of it, because if you wear a rebreather and the different levels, basically tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, gives you an extra d20 to roll, and basically giving you advantage or taking the highest one out of all the d20s that you roll with chance of being infected. Uh, the keywords that I had mentioned before. It also has, I've added some additional injuries just to make it even more gruesome. Some uh, worm removal that I had mentioned. And then in the setting, if you get infected with all 6 worms, like you can't be infected by more than one at a time, but if you get infected by one, it leaves you, or you find a way to remove it. If you happen to get infected by all 6 and still survive, you're one of the unscathed. You're a creature that can no longer be infected by the Grimm, by the worms, but the Grimm can sense your pheromones. They know who you are, and they're trying to hunt you then. So it's got rules for that, and mechanics for that. Especially that adds to the long form play. And one other thing is some additional optional weapons rules that I've added in after playing Raptor Ruckus and seeing um, how consumables work with that, where instead of keeping track of it, you can, depending on the type of weapon, roll a specific die after each use. And if you get like a 1, then your battery's drained. But if you drained your battery on that round, it did max damage. So things like that, because I think because of the randomness and the spontaneity and the fast paced movement of Grimm, I am playtesting that right now and have really been enjoying it, because a lot of people in the rules light games just don't keep track of things. I don't keep track of things, so I like that because it also just makes it a little more random and explosive at the table.
So with Morkborg, and for anyone who doesn't know Morkborg, you should really check it out. It's a rules light but high fatality type of game. Actually, I have friends who play it just to see what's the worst way they can die in the game.
That's
But
fantastic.
with Vast Grim, especially with the Kickstarter, I get this feeling that it's becoming more like, I don't want to know if Alien is the right uh, uh, comparison. What I mean by Alien is that if you look at the Alien movies, they're meant to be like also like a high fatality. Well, you shouldn't be surviving those
Right.
encounters. Characters should be surviving, and the story starts anew. But if there's this feeling that people want to expand the universe to know more about it, so that people can continue playing in this universe, maybe
Yes.
not with the same character. Is that what you see Vast Grim becoming, where maybe it started out as a space horror, high fatality, quick one shot type of adventures, and people want to explore more of what you're
Absolutely.
creating?
And more than anything, I want to explore more. Like, all you need is the core book, and you can homebrew whatever you want and do what you want. But as I keep like getting ideas, I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything over here. Well, let me start working on some notes here. So it's really, and part of the idea of doing the smaller format, the zine format, even with the smaller hardcover books, was it allows me to kind of work on. I usually work on like 3 different projects at one time. So I'm writing 3 different things, so that if my brain gets stuck in one place, I can jump over here, start writing on something else, and then jump back to it the inspiration hits, just so that I'm never not moving.
Hmm. Let's talk about Of Worms and Men. I love novellas
Hmm.
or novels,
Yep.
anything like that, because for players, starter sets are great. But for me as a game master, if you really want me to run something, having a novel, especially if it's a new property that I've
Yep.
never, if it's the One Ring, yeah, I've seen the movies, I've read the
Sure.
books, easy, to put together something. But for a new setting like Vast Grimm, having a novel, stories written, helps me get the feel and tone of the game.
Yes.
Um, what can you tell us about Of Words and Men? Is that something you're writing, or is that another
It
writer?
it is not. I am by no means a writer in that sense. My words come to me in short, short quippy snippets, and it's great for writing like comic book dialogue or OSR style games. Anything more long form I just struggle. But it is by John Balchesberger. He's an award-winning horror writer. He's written the official novella for Morkborg, and he's written some ongoing some short stories in the Morkborg setting. He has more coming out from that. So he wrote it. He wrote it like a year and a half, 2 years ago. We've been kind of sitting on it, but reading it and reading how he described things, because I visualize things and I art things, but how he described the infestation of the worms and the larva, it completely changed how I now describe it when running a game for other people. So it's great getting somebody else's visual language and being able to put that into the setting. And along with that, it follows two characters. It's got some romantic elements, but it's definitely horrific. It's got body horror elements, and it's setting itself up to be an ongoing series of novels. And along with that, John has come on board, and he's going to be writing quarterly fiction zines that relate to the adventure zines that I'm doing that month or that quarter. So like he's working on one called Humanity's Protectorate, which is a faction on Terminus Star, which is one of the other zines that's part of the Kickstarter. So they'll tie in together. Things that he'll write and create in the narrative will then put in mechanics for characters or classes or creatures, things like that, into the fiction itself. So it has dual purposes, which is part of one of the things that I try to do with most of my products. It's like, if I make this, I want it to work here and here, because I want it to have added value.
So I see here that your Kickstarter is successful. Congratulations. You
Thank
made
you.
your
Yes.
goal. If I may ask, how much time will you need? Like, how much more is there to be completed for your Kickstarter?
Sure. Let's
Uh,
see. Sorry, I need to scroll through the Kickstarter. So I have it listed as a February fulfillment date. Um, I'm planning to fulfill it sooner than that. So all of the components in it, the only things that are not being manufactured in the US are the binders and the patches. The boxes are being made by a company in the US that I've already gotten prototypes from, that just need to be slightly adjusted in a slightly smaller size, because I want them to be the same height and depth as the Mouse Ritter boxes, because I want or width and height as that, because I want those to sit on a shelf nicely together. And right now it's just a little bigger and a little wider, but I made mine 2 inches deep so that it can hold a little bit more. As far as the actual, I'm about 3/4 of the way through the crew member manual, the network operator manual, and the threat registry. Um, let's see. Killing the King's Bounty is like 98% done, and Terminus Star is about 25% done. Of Worms and Men is written, it needs to be laid out, and Humanity's Protectorate, John's working on the drafts of that now. So there will be no problem with hitting fulfillment by February of 2026, and most likely earlier than that, because the sooner I get things out, the sooner I can start on the next project. And with me printing all the zines myself, once one is done, once Walton Wood, who's been my editor for years, once he edits it and I get it, I can just go out, start working, and start printing, and go ahead and start printing one while others are getting finished.
oh, excellent, excellent. If I don't know if you could choose between your children, but
Mm-hmm.
is there anything about this Kickstarter that you're most excited about? Was it the starter set, maybe, or the novella?
Um, I would say the starter set, only because the people that are already fans are always looking to infect more people and get more people playing. And I think the starter set's going to do that. It's going to bring more people to our community. The people that are in there are amazing. And if we can get more awesome people to play the game and make more friends, I mean, that's what we want to do, right? We all just want to sit around a table and play games together. So,
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, so right now this is out on Kickstarter. After this Kickstarter is over and you were able to finish everything and send everything out, what's next for you?
well, I still have to fulfill my skirmish game Squirmish, which will probably be in late October this month. Then after this, I have zines slated for each quarter of 2026, multiple zines to continue going on. I need to do the fourth, fifth, and sixth installment of the Gate of Infinite Stars adventure campaign series. I have other ones slated as well. Um, my card game that's set in the same universe that Duncan Hall wrote and did all the mechanics for is about to hit retail later this month. And with that, I believe like the backers are really excited about it. And the cards also work in the RPG because like creatures and characters and all that have hit points, armor, and weapons. So because they have dual use, I think that will start to seep into the RPG side, and I believe we'll probably do a crowdfunding campaign for another series of decks that expand that. So I'm just gonna that and way too many conventions in 2026.
Hmm. You mentioned earlier that you helped sculpt that creature in on your wall over there.
Yes,
Are you still doing creature creation? Do you have
yes,
time for it with all the writing and stuff you're doing?
yes. I do. I kind of mix it up depending on what I've been doing. A lot more photo bashing work and stock photography and things like that. But I also I will sometimes sculpt on panel boards and then photograph that. And then I do a lot of kit bashing as well of various trash, like plastic trash that my kids get from random things that they buy. And I'll build space stations and that sort of thing. And then I'll photograph it and take it into the layout and bash it up. Yes, I do. I do a wide range of it because of the epoxy material that I use for all of my big monster sculptures. I tend to try and get as much of that done in the spring, fall, and winter because being in Georgia, I was sculpting in my office until I realized how toxic it was and how it wrecked my sinuses. So now I sculpt all of that outside and let it cure outside in the fresh air rather than being contained in a small space with it.
Hmm. Remind me again. I know we talked about this before, I think in the previous video. The stuff you create is that do you also create stuff for Fast Scream? Because I always see in your booth like these creatures also, but I'm not sure if they're related to your game. Or are they?
Usually they're always related to a game of some sort. So
Oh,
when I
okay.
have when I have those sculptures, usually it's something that I've sculpted, then I photograph and put into the setting. Sometimes I'll sculpt stuff and photograph it and release it on Patreon first, and then it doesn't ever see a Vast Grimm book until 2 years later.
Oh, okay. If I may ask, what's been your favorite for Fast Scream particularly? What's
Yes.
been your favorite sculpture?
Let's see. Um, I think there's one that was in uh, it was in the Helltrap Barges book, which is set in the waste barges of Kalar. It's this big creature that has these tentacles coming out of its mouth that are also techno laced. There and like so they have bits and pieces that I pulled and kit bashed from like Gundam models, like just the sprues and stuff going all into the tentacles. So it's got weird eyes and weird teeth, and I always like teeth and tentacles. I mean, stuff's fun to sculpt and hard to photograph.
Well, excellent. Is there anything about Fast Scrim or the Kickstarter or both that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
Um, Hopefully by the time this airs, I'm looking at probably doing a thing to try and get more people writing third party Vastgrim content. So look on the Kickstarter for that. Keep paying attention to the Kickstarter if I haven't posted it yet. But Raptor Ruckus just did something on their Kickstarter not last month where they had a thing where people submitted their ideas and then there were 4 people that were chosen to get financial compensation for them writing adventures, as well as a percentage of royalties for those once they're out in the wild. And I want to grow the third party content for Vastgrim and get more people making weird stuff for this universe. So yeah, follow the Kickstarter for that, if nothing else.
Excellent. And I will put all the links to the Kickstarter and Fast Scrim at Drive to RPG and your website in the description below. So yes, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about Fast Scrim, about its origins and its Kickstarter, and this sounds fatally fantastic.
Thank you so much, Manny. It's always a pleasure getting to talk to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to have me on your show.
Oh, same here. Thank you for joining us, and to our viewers and listeners, thank you for checking us out. Be safe out there. Stay away from worms. We'll talk to you later.